This band must have worked long nights if they were to become the Nocturnal Knights of sci-fi death metal. Nocturnus and their album, The Key, from 1990. This is the first album in Nocturnus' discography, with Mike Browning on drums and vocals, Mike Davis and Sean McNeely on guitar, Jeff Estes on bass, and Louis Panzer on keyboard, and additional backup vocals being provided by Cam Lee. This, at the time, 5-man band, 6 if you want to include Cam Lee, was indestructible. They gave a strong sci-fi theme to the album that is just wonderful, and it doesn't try to outshine the instruments or vocals. It all blends perfectly. Much like Autopsy, which I reviewed their first album, Severed Survival, last time, this has the vocalist as the drummer, or vice versa, who cares? And he does an impressive job. You'd expect to hear his voice bouncing with his feet on the kick pedal, or his hands holding the drumsticks and smashing the living hell out of his drum set. However, he comes across clear and crisp. A spectacular job was done on the artwork by Dan Seagrave. He did this work of art, and also worked with Suffocation and Morbid Angel, and a slew of others, but I only brought up those two because Suffocation's Effigy of the Forgotten and Morbid Angel's Altars of Madness share a similar technical and meshed-together quality which is similar to this artwork for Nocturnus's The Key. 1990 was the big boom for death metal, in my opinion. Sure, 87 we saw Scream, Bloody Gore, and INRI. 88 gave us Malus Maleficarum and Recapetrifaction. 89 granted us with Slowly We Rot and Severed Survival, but we got tons of bands entering the scene with their debut albums back in 1990 and 1991. Cannibal Corpse's Eaten Back to Life, Deicide's self-titled album, Cancers to the Gory End, Dismembers Like an Ever-Flowing Stream, Massacres from Beyond, Immolation's Dawn of Possession. All of these and more came out like a tsunami of awesomeness back in the very early 90s. Nocturnus was among them. You can feel the experience and thrive in entertainment with this album. 1 minute you're in a trance of space and time. Then the next minute, your galaxy, your world, your ears explode with savage songs of transfixed wonder. It is not debatable. There is a strong thrash metal element to this album, and it works. Death thrash has always been my favorite combination. A lot of bands from the late 80s and early 90s were still experimenting with this new craze known as death metal. Thrash enthusiasts who wanted to begin their death metal career still carried a lot of thrash elements with them. That is what's awesome about these songs. You can still hear the experimenting and tinkering with the genre of music. Nocturnus shreds and growls like there's no end to their madness. When the album's time is up, you're gonna want to hit that replay button. The production of The Key is pretty solid. It is a bit too heavy on the cymbals at times, which can overtake parts of the songs. However, this whole album rocks the meteorite heading for the studio and pushes it on course for all the churches in Tampa, Florida, which is where the band is from. Unfortunately, Mike Browning, the creator of Nocturnus, was kicked out of the band after this album. He now goes around with a band known as After Death, originally titled Nocturnus After Death, which in all honesty, both the names are awesome. It's nearly 48 minutes. This album is a bit on the long side, but hey, that's okay. Because every song is awesome. With the beginning of this album giving us something whimsical in the sci-fi department, Lake of Fire is a great tune to start with. After that fantasy-esque opening, we get shredded by guitars. Then we are given the beat down with a synchronized bash. The fierce vocals of Mike Browning are soon to follow, and this album begins. The lyrics tell of the horrors in the Lake of Fire, obviously. I mean, it's in the freaking title. As anti-Christianity Standing in Blood is, you cannot deny the sheer electric journey it takes you on. Oh yeah, Nocturnus is an anti-Christianity and very satanic sci-fi death metal band. An odd combo, I know, but with tunes such as Standing in Blood, you can tell it was a brilliant idea right from the cymbal smashing and keyboards rising notes. As a disclaimer, the band members themselves are not really satanic, they're just stating about that kind of stuff, from what I've gathered from the interviews. Aggressive is a good word to explain how the start of Visions from Beyond the Grave shreds. The song is not faster than Lake of Fire. It's about the same, but it is louder. It's lyrically about seeing visions from beyond the grave through a crystal ball, as a fortune teller would use. The song reminds me of all the numerous times I watched Lucio Fulci's Zombie and Zombie 3, and even Claudio Fragaso's After Death aka Zombie 4, and, Zombie 5. Also, BC/AD, Before Christ After Death, is an interesting song. It's got some auto-tuning, but it works and sounds thrilling. You feel like you're being whipped with a lightsaber after every word. Before I end up talking about all the songs on this album, I should finish off my praising with Undead Journey. It's a song that goes full throttle. It's heavy on the keyboard and hard on the guitars and drumming. You also get some good bass work in it as well. Those were just 5 songs out of the 10 on Nocturnus' The Key, and that's 5 classics already. So while it's still readily available, make sure to pick this album up from Relapse Records. Become a fan, and they're Nocturnal Slaves. That's an excerpt from Visions from Beyond the Grave. The top 5 songs on this album, in my opinion: number 5, BC/AD, Before Christ After Death. Number 4, Dramana Strain. Number 3, Standing in Blood. Number 2, Lake of Fire. And number 1, Visions from Beyond the Grave. Overall, I give Nocturnus' The Key a 4 out of 5. Lion Brian Gatto, host of Horror Show Entertainment. Make sure to like my Facebook page in the description below and leave comments and subscribe.